I feel that with every film I do, I want to be pushing myself. I want to be moving on from what I've done in the past, building on what I've done, not throwing things away, but trying to push forward a little in a direction. But I also try to not be self-conscious about that. I don't want to do something specifically because I haven't done it before.
Christopher Nolan likes to turn your world upside down. In each of his films, there comes a moment when you start to realise that the hero isn't quite who you thought he was. When The Dark Knight's Harvey Dent says,
"You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
he could be speaking about the fate of just about every Nolan protagonist. Leonard Shelby in Memento, the dueling magicians in The Prestige, and even Cobb from Inception. This theme is reinforced by Nolan's repeated use of a very unusual shot, the roll, a camera movement in which the camera does a barrel roll that turns everything in view on its side, or if it keeps turning, upside down. Directors and cinematographers use this very rarely, but Nolan loves it, and he employs it at key moments for a particular purpose: to make us feel as the protagonist does, that the world is literally and figuratively turning on its head.
Here we go.
In The Dark Knight, Nolan uses a barrel roll shot to focus on one specific character, the Joker. The shot occurs at the end of the film and serves as the Joker's final appearance in the movie. As a highly credible and unique antagonist, the Joker is more interested in changing Gotham's perception of itself than in taking physical control of the city. After all, we saw what the Joker did with his share of $100 million.
Everything burns.
During the Joker's journey of trying to corrupt Batman, the Joker released Gotham's White Knight Harvey Dent's inner darkness by steering his fate toward the madman Two-Face, whom he had now become. Although the Joker had murdered Bruce Wayne's oldest friend Rachel, and held his city to ransom, Batman remained incorruptible and proved the Joker wrong. Or so he thought.
But I know how you got me.
You just couldn't let me go, could you? This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. You truly are incorruptible, aren't you? Huh?
When Batman had finally captured the Joker, leaving the villain hanging upside down, the Joker switches from fighting Batman with bazookas to trying to defeat him with a lengthy barrage of ideas. In short, he wants Batman to embrace moral anarchy, break his one rule, and kill him. Just as Batman seemed to consider this, the camera rolled on its side, and soon after the Joker appeared to be right side up, while the world behind him turned upside down. This symbolizes the idea that even though the Joker had turned Gotham upside down, the Joker himself remained clear in his ideas, motives, and principles, hence the right side up. The Joker creates psychological strain on Batman and the audience by suggesting that even though he was unable to corrupt Batman and had been captured, he had still won. Because while Batman was worried about remaining incorruptible, he had allowed his city to turn on itself, and would watch it finally collapse when its people learnt the fate of their shining symbol of justice, Harvey Dent, and his descent to darkness. Because of this, the Joker still controls the situation, calling Harvey his
Ace in the hole.
This control that has now been revealed to Batman is visually represented by the barrel roll shot. The Joker manages to sum it all up at the scene's close when he says,
See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
In Inception, Nolan uses the barrel roll technique to emphasize an idea that forces you to question the truth of your own reality. Inception is Nolan's most mind-bending film yet. He manages to turn the world on its side again and again. Sometimes this is literal. The most striking instance is when Ariadne literally folds Paris in on itself until Parisians are strolling down the inverted streets above her. This happens when she discovers the infinite possibilities of a dream, when you become aware that you are dreaming.
Something, isn't it?
To simulate this realization for the audience, Nolan literally folds the world on itself. This makes it impossible to tell what's right side up and what's upside down. In other words, reality and a dream have become indistinguishable. But the camera rolls come later.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
First, there's the action set piece that takes place in a barrel-rolling hotel hallway. As for Nolan's love for practical effects, the filmmaker constructed a massive rolling set to pull it off. For this, he drew inspiration from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Both scenes allow the audience to experience the sickening fear of a world turned upside down, over and over again. Throughout the scene, the camera rolls on its side with the action, defying all gravity and logic to pull off one of the most impressive fight scenes in cinematic history. But it's at the end of Inception that we once again lose our equilibrium, just as we're seeing the protagonist from a new angle. It happens when we finally witness how the hero, Cobb, ended up arguably killing his wife, Mal.
We were lost in here. I knew we needed to escape, but she wouldn't accept it.
Cobb explains how he succeeded in convincing her that she was dreaming, and therefore needed her to kill herself to escape the dream.
Planted an idea. A simple little idea that would change everything. That her world wasn't real.
Just as we're beginning to wonder if we can trust Cobb anymore, the camera once again is rolled on its side. Cobb and Mal are both lying on their sides on the fatal train tracks, but they now appear to be right side up, thus sending the audience into the spiraling disbelief that in order to be saved, one must die.
watching closely?
There is a reason why Christopher Nolan is considered one of the greatest filmmakers of the 21st century. His use of the really otherwise seen barrel roll technique separates himself from the rest of the industry due to the combined effect on the audience of the camera roll, the intense score, and the plot. In The Dark Knight, the barrel roll technique was used to assist the audience in understanding the true motives of the Joker and how he had turned the world upside down, although he remained upright and clear, thus altering our perception of the true victor of the film. We then ask ourselves, if the Joker could outsmart Batman and steal the soul of an entire city on his own, how insane is he really? In Inception, a rolling camera technique is used throughout the film to simulate dreams collapsing and the manipulation of worlds with your mind. However, the most significant use of the roll is where Cobb and Mal lie upon the train tracks waiting for a train to come in order to, ironically, save themselves and return to reality. As we've seen, Christopher Nolan loves to turn your world upside down. In each of his films, there comes a moment when you realise that the hero isn't quite who you thought he was.
Are you to die, hero? Or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain?
This theme is reinforced by Nolan's repeated use of a very unusual shot. Directors and cinematographers use this very rarely, but Nolan loves it, and he employs it at key moments for a particular purpose, to make us feel, as the protagonist does, that the world is literally and figuratively turned on its head.